Hello, chess friends, and welcome to Zadov's Chess channel, and welcome to a very special story that I decided to share with you today. It's about the new engine that's out. It's about the new chess engine that's performing, and it's the so-called Fat Fritz 2. The Fat Fritz 2 recently played a brutal match game against Stockfish and NUE, and if you have followed my channel, I really analyzed many of these games about Stockfish and NUE, and recently this Fat Fritz 2 really brutalized Stockfish and NUE with a clear result. I'm really not sure if this Fat Fritz 2 is stronger than Stockfish and Uni. I really don't know. Maybe some of you who maybe know more about this AI technology, maybe about this brute force engines, about these ideas, about the nets that they're using. Maybe you can write it down. Maybe you can give me some of your opinions. But recently, as I said, the match game has been played, and I wanted to also thank my follower Mike Smith for posting me that the new Fat Fritz 2 is out because I would really know. I didn't know about this article, and I'm going to read a little bit from this article. So it says the Fat Fritz 2 is trained and developed using this NNU technology running inside the open source Stockfish binary, but with a completely new and different neural network that differs significantly from Stockfish on a couple of key points. The first is that the evaluations and position did not come from a brute force engine such as Stockfish or Komodo, but rather come from our original neural network Fat Fritz. After all, in an elite neural network could be, if an elite neural network could be trained from just Stockfish evaluation, imagine what it could do with a sophisticated knowledge of Fat Fritz. To this end, some 4 billion positions were generated on thousands of hours of the most powerful graphics to train it. The second key difference is that the neural network in Fat Fritz 2 is double the size of Stockfish 12 or Stockfish NNE, using 512 neurons instead of 256, offering the opportunity for double the knowledge and understanding. So the result after this match game between Stockfish and NUE and Fat Fritz was that Fat Fritz won 286 games, 99 games Stockfish and NUE won, and they have played 1,167 draws. So as I said, I'm not sure, I'm really not sure if this Fat Fritz 2 is stronger. But as I said, it recently won this match game against Stockfish and NE, and today I decided to show you a great game in the Richter-Hauser attack of the Sicilian defense. In my opinion, it was really incredible game, and as I said, I don't care. Recently, I've got some criticism about praising Stockfish and NE so much. As I said, as I always like to say, I really don't care which engine is the best, but recently Stockfish was really the best, and I decided to follow simply Stockfish and NE. So as I said, if now Fat Fritz will be the best engine, then of course we're following always the best. At least that works here simply on my chess channel. I really enjoy these games. As I said, I've analyzed many games by Lila C0, Alpha 0, Stockfish and NE, and we have now a new beast in town, which I really love. We'll see now, I think, even a better competition in the future. It will be a new chess era maybe for us. So let's check out now one game. It was in the Richter-Hauser. As I said, it was an incredible tactical game, and when it comes to positional understanding, this Fat Fritz 2, I think it's very incredible. I analyzed a couple of games, but I decided to show you really a sharp game. I will cover, I think, more and more of these games, but as I said, there were about 1,500 games, so I really had to sort them out. I really watched a couple. I couldn't really analyze, of course, all of them, and the most trouble that I had about this Fat Fritz 2, I had to use an avatar for Fat Fritz. I hope you like this picture that I use now for Fat Fritz. I have always this Android here for Stockfish and NE, but I now used more monstrous picture here for our new friend, for our new Fat Fritz 2. So as I said, I'm really excited because this will be a really beautiful era for us. I think we'll see really some beautiful queen sacrifices, rook sacrifices, decoys, deflection, double attacks, all of these beautiful elements that can happen in chess game. And as I said, I really wanted to thank Mike Smith for posting me the message on my YouTube chess channel, because I wouldn't really know, because I didn't read simply the article. So let's check out now one game. It was a beautiful chess game. As usual, we have this beautiful sounds that we use in this top engine game. So let's see round one and fight. So here it's Fat Fritz with the white pieces, d4. We have pardon me, e4. Here c5 by Stockfish and E. Fat Fritz 2 plays knight to f3, d6, d4, c takes d4, knight to d4, knight to f6, knight to c3, and here knight to c6. After bishop to g5, we have now this Richter router attack. And it's a very pragmatic idea, I think, for white. White wants to play bishop takes f6, then weaken the pawn structure. After g takes f6, there are many holes to attack. Then the d5 is weak, then the f5 is weak. So these are clear targets. But sometimes it's not so good to take immediately. Maybe we can wait a little bit, waiting maybe h6. Then we could take maybe bishop to f6. At least we can stay a little bit longer with this bishop here like this. In the game, e6 was played by Stockfish and E. It's now this chevening system. It's of course not the chevening Sicilian, but it's a similar structure where we're having this flexibility with this d6 and e6 pawn. In some occasions we could search also d5 pawn breakthrough in order to open simply the position if we get challenged too much. Sometimes this d5 move can be a liberating move. Even then, after the d5 move, sometimes the position really explodes. There are many tactical ideas and sharp ideas for both sides. Here, queen to d2, we have a6 by Stockfish and E, queenside castling, and now after bishop to d7, we have f3. It's a common idea. Now, basically, the game transposed into neither of Sicilian setups with the move a6. Obviously, black will play bishop to e7 and castle kingside. That's why this move f3 is a preparation to play g4, h4, h5, g5 if the position allows it. Is here with the move f3, we're already preparing to attack the king side. On the other hand, this a6 preparation is of course a great move because we have the opportunity then to push the pawn on b5 and also attack the queen side. As I always like to say, but I repeat myself, of course, again, this will lead now many times into the so-called opposite side attack game, where white will have the king on the queen side, black will have the king on the king side. So who is faster on the attack will probably win the game. So here h6, and now we could maybe even try bishop to f6, but I think after the move bishop to f6, giving up the bishop pair in an early stage of the game is not so good. You see the d file, although the d file is opened, and maybe black has here a weakness on d6. Still, this pawn cannot be taken. You see the bishop is protecting that, and I think from this point on it's a good game here for black. So that's why bishop to e3, played by Fat Fritz 2. We have b5, king to b1, very important move. Now after b4, we could remaneuver our knight to e2, knight to g3, maybe first g4, knight to g3, and then h4, h5, g5, really splitting the pawns so on the king side. So here h5. This move, I think it's very natural now. Recently, it's a popular move in neither of Sicilians because I think still this game is transposing into the neither of. Here, after the move h5, we're blocking at least black's progress with the move g4. Because if you try, for instance, h3 in order to play the move g4, still you cannot play the move g4 because after h takes g4, you cannot recapture with the h pawn. Your bishop is hanging, pardon me, your rook is hanging on the h file. And even if you try something like bishop to e2 afterwards, I think there is a good defensive strategy here for black. Black could advance the pawn on h4 and really paralyze the whole king side, really creating some space advantage, but also never allow white to push the pawn on g4. So it's of course a pragmatic idea, but sometimes this h5 move can also be a weakness. You have already played now with one of your pawns, you have advanced the pawn, and I think this king is not secure here, so that's why black will have to castle now kingside, because the center could be opened. If the center gets opened, if we get maybe our rook here on the e file, then the king could be in danger. So here, as I said, it's a good choice. We're blocking at least white's progress, but it's also a weakening move here by black, so it's a double function. Sometimes this h5 move can be risky, but as I said, this move has been played now many times recently, not in the same move order, but as a strategical idea, it has been played many times now in the neither of Sicilian. So here knight to c6, played by Fat Fritz 2. We have bishop to c6, and now h4. As I said, the h4 move is a very tricky move here for black. Black would paralyze the king side with this move, so that's why it's Fat Fritz 2 that takes over here of that square. It's a very nice move. And here, after the move bishop to e7, we have now knight to e2, because this bishop, we actually don't know where to go till this bishop has a good activity. I think the only piece that needs improvement now in this position, it's the knight. That's how you always evaluate your pieces. You can look which piece is good, which piece is bad. rook queen battery perfectly fine. This bishop is perfectly fine. This bishop is of course not so good, but at least it has some kind of an activity. But this knight is really bad. You see every square of this knight is taken, so that's why knight to e2, very nice move by by Fat Fritz 2. We have rook to c8, and now knight to d4, bishop to b7, and now bishop to e2. We're preparing finally really this move g4, and here queen to c7. We have bishop to g5, castling play by Stockfish and NUE, and now bishop to d3. This was, I think, a great preparation here by Fat Fritz 2. This bishop had, of course, its function, because first of all we have attacked the potential g4 move, but now when black castled, we changed a little bit the direction of the attack. Now this bishop is very important here on h7. It's much more important to have the bishop now there. In this opposite side attack games, I've mentioned that many times. When we have kings on opposite sides, we're attacking, of course, our opponent's king, but sometimes you can even sacrifice the pawn. I think white would even love more the position if we wouldn't have the g pawn, if we would have maybe here already an open g file. So as I said, let's just take away this g2 pawn, and I think white has a really brutal attack. So that's why in this opposite side attack games, it's sometimes a pragmatic idea just to sacrifice the pawn and open the position, trying to get a nice activity with our rooks, with our bishops, simply attacking the king. So even if you lose 1 pawn, 2 pawns, 3 pawns sometimes are possible to sacrifice. So that's why, as I said, we would love to, I think, in this position, to even give up our g2 pawn just for that, so for nothing. So here if you try, for instance, d5, I've analyzed now this line. I had to ask myself this question: what happens after we remove d5? Because you see, black is not gaining anything with b4. Of course, as we said, maybe this could be an idea after queen to b4 to get some kind of an attack on the b file, but still this bishop is standing in the way. So I think here after the move b4, you don't gain so much. I asked myself, as I said, the question d5, what happens? But then it gets very risky. You get the move e5, and the problem is now after queen to e5, this is not a possibility, because bishop to f4 is trapping the queen. After queen to d4, we have bishop to h7, and now the queen is trapped. The queen will be taken. You have to react. Of course, you have to take out the bishop, and then you lose the queen. So if you don't react, if you don't play the move queen takes e5, you could maybe try knight to e7, but then after bishop to e7, queen to e7, now comes this move g5, g4, very important. And after h takes g4, here rook to g1. We are opening, as I said, g file. I think from this point on, black is simply lost strategically. This knight is out of game. This bishop is blocked out by its own pawn. We will use simply our g file. If you try to cover everything, I think even bishop to g6 sacrifices are possible. h5 ideas to split and open the position on the g file. So many great attacking opportunities here for white. So after the move b3, we have now this move b4. As I said, black is trying here desperately to open somehow the position, but here Fat Fritz 2 doesn't react. Fat Fritz 2 plays simply on one ticket here. Is preparing here the move g4. We have now a5 by Stockfish and NUE, and now a great monster move here by Fat Fritz 2. We'll give that really this toasty sound. Bishop to h6 is such a beautiful sacrifice. Here Stockfish and NUE didn't take, but let's see what happens. After move g takes h6, if you take queen to h6 will happen. Here knight to h7, you could maybe get some kind of new defender in front of the king, but now we have the move e5, and this move e5 is brutalizing the whole position. You cannot do anything. You cannot play knight to f6. You don't have a square for the knight. The knight gets attacked, and it's game over. So if you try, for instance, maybe to play something like rook from f to d8 in order to liberate you some squares for the king, maybe try to find some kind of an escape route, then it's even worse. I think g4 is really a brutal move. After h takes g4, then again this move e5. e5 is paralyzing the whole position here for black. After bishop to f3, knight to f3, we can immediately take, and now after d takes e5, rook to g5 is here a great possibility. Knight to g5, you see, you get checkmated. So there are maybe some other choices, but as I said, the main goal ours is here to open the g file, to liberate some diagonals, to liberate some files. And as I said, you cannot really take after move bishop to h6. A great tactic here by Fat Fritz too. Here Stockfish and E tried rook to d8, but here g4 anyway by Fat Fritz too. We have knight to e8 protecting this g7 square, and now bishop to g7. Very nice ideas here. After knight to g7, we have queen to h6 with the idea to open g takes h5 and then to attack this position. Here in the game, d5 was played. Here trying to get some kind of an activity on this long diagonal, but now we have again this move e5, and here bishop to c5 was played. If you try queen to e5 in order to take out the pawn, and here also to protect the g7, it's of course a great checkmate here. Queen to h7, that's the tactic that you have to always take care of. Queen to h7, king to f8, and then you get queen to h8. It would be game over. So again, this move e5 is very brutal. It paralyzes really the position. Really nice and advanced pawn here. Stockfish and E tries bishop to c5 in order to get the pieces somehow active, because this pawn chain, it's of course a firm pawn chain, but it's paralyzing our own pieces. It blocks out our own pawn. This bishop was out of game too, so Stockfish and E is trying to get some kind of a new defender into the game. Here we have g takes h5, liberating the g file, and now queen to a5 happens, but here knight to e6, really beautiful tactic here by Fat Fritz too. If you take with the queen here, then you get checkmated. Of course, if you try f takes e6, then you get simply rook to g5. That was the continuation here by Fat Fritz too, kicking away the queen from the defense of the knight. You have only one square, queen to d4, and now rook to e1, getting this other rook into the game. Now the goal is of course rook takes e6 followed with rook to g6. This is really a wild position. As we said, also queen to h7 followed with queen to h8 is also a possibility. Here in the game, rook to e8 was played, but now queen to h7, we have king to h8, and now h6. You see this pawn is very important. Rook to c7, and now bishop to g6, attacking the rook. Here rook to a8, bishop to h5, again a new beautiful move. Knight to h5 of course leads to checkmate here, rook to g8. So that's why here bishop to c6, trying to get new pieces into the defense, but it's game over anyway. We have the h takes g7, rook to g7, and now after a move queen to h6 in this position, Stockfish and E resigned. So what's the possible continuation? Let's see, maybe a move bishop to d7, queen to h8. That's the main issue here. You have to move your king. This bishop is protecting of course here this f7 square, so that's why you would be forced here to resign. Really, rook takes g7, and then we can take out this rook. There are of course also some other possibilities to create some checks. So as I said, in this position, after the move queen to h6 in this position, Stockfish and E resigned. Really wild stuff. As I said, I don't want to sound that I know really everything about this. I'm not sure if this Fat Fritz 2 is stronger than Stockfish and E, but as I said, it's a very interesting story, at least for me. As you know how much I really love this engine games. This is really beautiful to watch this kind of attacks. So as I said, we'll see now in the future what's going to happen with Stockfish and E, with the Fat Fritz 2. I'm really excited. Again, thank you Mike for posting me this message, and I really enjoyed also this game. I will cover, I think, more games from this super match. I'll try to search of course beautiful attacks like this, because there are also games there that lasted for 250 moves and similar stuff. So that's not the games that are not the games of course that we'll analyze here on my channel. So as I said, this I try to search for this sharp attacks, especially in Sicilians, maybe some King's Indians or maybe King's Gambits. We can also see maybe new lines, new attacking possibilities in sharp openings. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. Really enjoyed it a lot. If you want to see more brutal attacks and positional brilliancies by top engines, check out my series, the commented chess games played by computers. Here's the link. And if you are more into human games, check also out my best chess games of all time series, in which I show you the best chess games from chess history. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best of course.